but the Ukrainian military, with our help, has killed about 50% of the combat power of the Russians. This is the year of more. They're going to have more weapons, but we also want them to have new weapons, ATACMS, to knock the bridge down between Crimea and Russia. They're going to have F-16s. So this idea, give up on Ukraine makes the world safer. If you pull the plug on Ukraine because you don't have enough capability, there goes Taiwan. The Ukrainians are fighting like tigers. This aid package has a loan component to it. This would not have passed without Donald Trump. I want to thank the House Speaker and Hakeem Jeffries working together in a bipartisan fashion to give weapons to Ukraine to fight a fight that matters to us. And President Trump has created a loan component to this package that gives us leverage down the road. So this idea that we can't help Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan at the same time, I reject that. I reject it totally.
Yeah, we can totally take on Russia, Iran, China, North Korea all at the same time. Why not?
We can't even take out our own problems. Like,
yeah, I don't even know where to start with that Lindsey Graham clip. I mean, the reason why I played it though was, and we'll get to this, is talking about he kept invoking Donald J. Trump in that. Oh, Trump's brilliant idea was to make it a loan. A loan that, I mean, I've never heard. You guys ever heard of a loan where everyone, including the loan officer, goes, "We know they're not going to ever really pay this back."
Student loans? Oh no, just kidding.
Yeah, well, except they really go after your student loans if you don't pay those back.
Yeah, they're just trying to forgive them, but
yeah, but I mean, it's just amazing. Yeah, like it's usually they put a lot into their game. You know, politicians will come up with the most ridiculous words for things, and they'll stick to it because they can't let the absurdity of the whole thing come right out. But then with this, we know they're never going to ever actually really pay this money back ever because they're, country's kind of already destroyed.
I also think it's a trick. They're using Trump's name to get the masses on board with it, and it's a game, and it's sick, and it's stupid.
I don't think it's a game the masses are going to fall for either. I haven't seen any of the masses falling for it on Twitter. But this goes to this point Michael Tracy was making all week long on Twitter. Is Trump going to set the record straight on any of this? Because, he had that news conference with Mike Johnson last week, right before the Great 180, where suddenly Mike Johnson's like, all right, you know what? Never mind all that stuff we were saying about the border. We'll just pass everything Democrats wanted to. And at some point, Trump's gonna have to say, no, I didn't support this. But Trump's been kind of quiet about this whole thing, hasn't he?
Well,
unless he does. What do you say, Patty?
I said, what does that mean? Maybe he does, like what you said. Maybe he supports it.
That's why I have to do a spinoff.
Yeah, my guess is that Trump's gonna kind of throw out some red meat type statements for the base on Ukraine, against the Ukraine funding, but then quite quietly behind the scenes either support it or be willing to go along with it. That's kind of been his foreign policy MO from the start.
Yeah, strategic ambiguity. That's been his foreign policy. We've seen that word thrown around. By the way, speaking of Trump, did you guys see this? Hold on, let me bring this up on the screen. This apparently just got announced this week. A People's Convention. Turning Point USA is going to have a national People's Convention, which is weird socialist terms, because when you talk about the people's that's how the lefties in Ann Arbor talk. We're going to have the People's Progressive Park over here and the People's Progressive Network over there. And that's the people's thing is kind of a lefties thing, but I guess Turning Point's embracing that for their brand. People's Convention of the people, by the people, for the people. And Donald Trump will be
in town?
Huh?
There's your boyfriend. He's going to be here. Steve Bannon.
Yeah. Well, great speakers otherwise. Candace Owens, Matt Gaetz, Jack Posobiec, however you pronounce it.
Posobiec.
I'm not so crazy about Rick Scott or Kristi Noem, but whatever.
It'll be a good time.
Yeah, I suppose we'll have to go to this.
We've known about it. I mean, I think I've known about it for a while.
Oh. I only heard about it this week. Yeah, a lot of big names. This is true. Yep.
And I think the it's smart to kind of take the the people back from the left. Now that Trump is has kind of reconfigured the Republican Party, at least in terms of its branding, more America first and more what's best for the worker. We should double down on that sort of thing and co-opt that language, that populist language from the left, as the left becomes more corporatized and more pro-war and supporting all these policies that are very unpopular and against the best interests of the people. I think it makes a lot of sense for us to take back those words and that branding and put them on our side. And the left uses them because they're powerful and they're good tactically. So if we can steal that away from them, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I hope so.
How big is that
I
mug?
just, I've been watching too much Scott McMillan lately.
It's a Darth Vader.
It's totally Darth Vader.
It's like literally this big.
Adam, you think TPUSA are Marxists?
Well, I don't know. I don't think they are, but this let's overthrow the GOP for the hell of it thing kind of has a certain smacking of communism in it. Something about the
Isn't that
something about that whole
for the hell of it.
huh?
I think
Yeah, you never heard that old Abby
TPUSA
Hoffman saying?
No,
Revolution
I know.
for the hell
I
of
don't
it?
think it was for the hell of it, though. Go ahead,
I
Shane.
think a lot
That's
of
the
turning
impression I
points-
got when we were at that precinct delegate training in Ann Arbor it's 2 years ago now, or a year and a half ago, something like that. The whole, we need to take back the GOP from Ron Weiser's establishment for whatever reason. That had a certain revolution for the hell of it vibe to me. But
was that part of MI Precinct First? That thing? I don't.
well, there's a whole network,
I don't
going
know. I have
from
no idea.
going from Steve Bannon to Dan Schultz, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being too conspiratorial.
I know a lot of what Turning Point has done, agitating at the RNC, I think, kind of weakened Rana and got the change in leadership that I think was desperately needed.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of what the Turning Point USA people are doing is more strategic than what we're seeing from these, agitator groups on the ground that, want to take over for the sake of taking over and then have no plan of action other than, create boogeymen and cause more infighting once they get power.
Yeah, I think so. But I guess we'll see when we see the People's Convention. We'll see, because there was another People's Convention that was supposed to happen this summer that's apparently not happening. That's Christina's convention, but we shall see. All right, let's leave this topic. Since all I'm doing is speculating on other people's motives. I have, by the way, revisited my position about Mike Johnson, the chair, who I thought most likely was always a douchebag all along. But I don't know. I was watching this clip from Tucker talking about the deep state. I don't know. Maybe blackmail is the better option. Maybe is the more likely option. I don't know. We'll see. Here's
he had a pretty good record before he was speaker. He had a pretty decent record, but maybe, is he spineless? Is he blackmailed? You never know.
It was very sudden. And there was some people on Twitter claiming that it was right after that meeting in the skiff when he suddenly changed, which I don't know. Anyway, here's what Tucker said. I'm going to play this clip.
Members of Congress are terrified of the intel agencies. I'm not guessing at that. They've told me that, including people on the Intel Committee, including people who run the Intel Committee, the people whose job it is to oversee and keep in line these enormous secretive agencies whose budgets we can't even know. They're black budgets. They're the parents. The agencies are the children. They're afraid of the agencies. That's not compatible with democracy. Democracy is a really simple system, even representative democracy like ours. The people rule. They do so through elections. They express their preference through voting. They send their people to the capital city to run the government on their behalf. Whenever you have unelected people who are not accountable to anyone making the biggest decisions, you don't have a democracy. You have something else, another system. I would call it a tyranny or whatever you want to call it. It's not a democracy. So that's like super obvious. It's playing out in front of everyone and no one cares and no one does anything about it. And I think the reason is because they're threatened. And if you look at the committee chairmen who allow this shit to happen year after year, they're all, and I don't know people say, oh, they're compromised or being blackmailed or whatever. I don't have evidence of that, but I know them, and they all have things to hide. I know that for a fact. And so it's not a stretch of imagination to imagine that, some committee chairman who's allowing warrantless spying on Americans to continue, or whatever abuse they're allowing, knowing fully or hiding the truth about UAPs, ignoring the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023. Like, why are they doing that? It's not impossible to imagine that some guy with a drinking problem or a weird sex life, and that's very common up there. That's why they're doing it, because they don't want to be exposed. I don't have evidence of that. I don't have proof of that.
Right.
But that's not a crazy thing to assume that could be happening. And I said to somebody, a very powerful person, the other day in a conversation in my kitchen, an elected official holds a really senior position, a very famous person. I was going crazy. I was so mad about all this stuff and about the warrantless spying and about the funding for these insane wars. And I said to the guy who serves in one of the legislative bodies, I got so mad my dogs were afraid. They're like, well, why are you yelling? Because I don't yell at home. But I was like, all these people are controlled. They're all, got weird sex lives, and all these things are hiding, and they're being blackmailed by the intel agencies. And he said, and I'm quoting, I know. It was like, okay, so at this point we're just sort of admitting that's real. Like, why do we allow that to continue?
Yeah. So good question. Because
that entire podcast with Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan was great, by the way. Worth taking the 3 hours to listen to. And Tucker has basically become a more articulate Alex Jones, which is, in my opinion, very, very cool.
Yeah, I saw that because I don't have Spotify, but I did see that whole interview is on YouTube, so I might have to check that out later. So there you go. But I mean, it is a distinct possibility. It's so bizarre to explain Mike Johnson's complete and total reversal of every one of his core positions. But I mean, I can't have much sympathy for, oh, there's blackmail going on. Yeah, well, tens of thousands of people in Ukraine will die because of the aid package you just passed. So you don't care about those people's lives at all. Obviously, it's a terrible moral trade-off if blackmail is what's involved. But yeah, it's amazing. So I guess that is a distinct possibility. But Johnson did more this week. He not only rammed the FISA extension through, but he now officially also rammed all those foreign aid bills through. That was this week. Tens of billions for Ukraine, mostly for the weapons companies. Money for Israel, money for our Indo-Pacific partners. That's code for agitating war with China. And then there's a TikTok ban and also a Russian asset theft. So
what does everyone think about the idea of Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene to boot Mike Johnson, similar to how Kevin McCarthy was booted? Do you guys think that's a good idea, or are we risking losing elections and putting a Democrat in? What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, who are they going to put up there?
Good question. I mean, I just like the idea of if you do the wrong thing, you're going to be held accountable, and we're not scared to use the power to get rid of you guys if you suck.
Yeah, but look how many people voted with him, right? They don't have the numbers.
Not the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, we only have a small minority of people who are willing to do the right thing, and none of those people can viably become speaker. Even Jim Jordan, who was, in my opinion, he's got an 80-90% conservative voting record, but if you look at closely in his record, he does do the bidding of the tech companies and other companies. So I think he's controlled opposition to a certain extent, but even he was deemed too conservative to actually be allowed to be speaker. So are they doing it just to do it? I mean, does that make sense? I don't know. I would like to see, just for how terrible he's been, just to see Mike Johnson go down in flames would be fun to see, but toward what ends?
I don't think it's worth it.
I think, well, there's the question of whether or not it's worth it. I think there needs to be a price paid for bad behavior. And the reason why they got rid of McCarthy was supposedly because of his complete breaking of all of his promises. And, now Speaker Johnson has broken all of his promises as well. And here's the reality.
Record
time. As of now, Mike Johnson is under the complete control of the Democrats. Because if the Republicans have votes to vacate, and it's entirely on the Democratic Party, they're going to go to Johnson and say, what are you going to do for us this week to keep your seat in the speaker's chair? And it's going to be like that forever and ever and ever. I mean, he might have gotten some concessions from them. Yes, we'll, because there was a lot of talk on the news about this. And the Democrats said, we will allow you to keep your office. We will support you for speaker if and only if you support Ukraine aid. Screw your border security. Do everything we want. And they might keep that promise until they decide they don't need to anymore, which is starting tomorrow, right? So Johnson is now controlled by the Democrats from here out, period. They will never do anything the Democrats don't want, or they can just withhold their support, and then Johnson's gone. So he is known to the whole planet as now being controlled by the opposing party. How can the Republicans function like that?
They won't get rid of him. But
I didn't say they wouldn't. They should. I didn't say they would. I said they should.
no. I
They
mean, yeah.
And I think the breach of promise is so total in this case. Like, I can't think of a Republican doing the complete, exact, total opposite of what they campaigned on.
Yeah,
going
you
back
totally
on
said earlier today, Adam, we would not
We
make
should
this stream
do.
about Johnson.
Yeah, we should move on. We were going to talk about these various ballot initiatives, proposals, Axe My Tax, and the local choice initiative. That is the theme of tonight's show. But, you know, you have to get there from someplace. We always start with some current events.
And getting
this has
there
been
from overtaxation to fund wars is a great segue. Let's do it.
all right. Perfect segue. Hold on. Jameis shows step 1, get rid of speakers. Step 2, elect a new one for the rest of the session.
Never
Step
elect
3,
a
new
new
business
one.
can be done. No more legislation gets passed. Is that winning? No action might be better than what they were doing. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. What they've done in this past week has been extraordinarily damaging for our country. I'd rather the Democrats had their names on it. More of them voted for those things than the Republicans did. But what is going to be the message for the American people is
They don't have
the
a
things
they
the
don't have a
Democrats
team.
did aren't all that bad because Republicans supported it. Oh yeah, some money for Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan, and not a penny for the United States.
Yeah, and that's how all these Democrat policies get normalized as Republicans go along with them. That's why Democrats will bribe someone weak like Gina Johnson to vote yes on the budget here, so that they can say, oh, it's a bipartisan budget. Then these things get normalized, and Democrats don't have full responsibility for it. It's been a bipartisan solution, and Republicans wouldn't fight Whitmer on her COVID tyranny enough. They were listening to people like Frank Lutz who were telling them, oh, you need to support lockdowns, you need to support all this stuff. It got normalized, and now people don't, the general public doesn't see Whitmer as an extremist. They see her as having taken, different measures. It was a tough time, and Republicans were supported the same thing. So it's really this weak Republican cowardice that enables the Democrats, and the Democrats know it. They're always pushing forward. And they're buttressed by weak spineless Republicans who refuse to do anything except acquiesce to it and look for whatever payout they can get as they're losing.
Yeah, the other thing too about Johnson. Sorry to keep going back to this, but what if he had taken the high ground and stood strong and lost the speakership? Then he'd have been a hero for conservatives all across the country. All of the rhinos that voted to remove him would have hell to pay back at home. I mean, he would have been able to. I mean, that's the thing, is when you fight for your issues, you actually gain your political advantage. When you compromise on your issues, you lose all your leverage. He's compromising on everything, so he's lost all his leverage. If he might lose the speaker's chair. If he's, oops, I didn't mean to bring that back on. He might lose the speaker's chair if he didn't sell out on everything else. But then if they removed him from office and he said, I was removed because I stood for the border, he would be making tens of millions of dollars in contributions for the next many years just off of that. He would continue to be politically relevant. Instead, the whole world knows him as a complete spineless tool of the Democrats. What an embarrassing place to be for him.
Let's move on.
All right, fine. We were fine.
Let's rescue Michigan.
Yes. Well, we do have
Yes,
a
thank
topic
you.
for
We
the
have to
screen.
rescue Michigan.
Yep. So we've got some proposals. And for those of you who've been involved in politics a while, we've seen a lot of proposals over the years. And in the thumbnail, I kind of call them silver bullets because to me, I think a lot of times people think that these are easy ways to score huge policy wins that somehow go around all of the frustration you get in every other type of politics that involves, winning elections, raising money, tons and tons of work. And that's how I think a lot of organizations saw this. Like the Convention of States, we'll just have a national convention to have a balanced budget amendment. And now Congress won't be able to spend your money anymore. We'll see. We'll see how that works. But I don't know. So the two that we've got this year, one of them is Axe My Tax. The other one is the Local Choice Initiative, which would overrule local governments. No, I'm sorry. It would overrule the state government's law that the Democrats just passed that gives them the authority to overrule the local governments on zoning as it pertains to renewable energy, because the Democrats just passed this package a few months ago, which I think is already now in effect, that says that local governments no longer can say if they don't want to have a wind or solar project, because now the Public Service Commission, which is basically a tool of the utility monopolies, now has that control at the state level. And then the Axe My Tax proposal is a proposal that basically would do away with all the property taxes in Michigan, I think. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Which, well, I can imagine there being issues with that. Because as much as I wish that everybody in Michigan wanted to pay no property taxes, there'd be some people who would go, wait, we need money for schools. And I would say, no, we don't. But some people would say, yes, we do. And then you might have a situation where you might end up having to replace those property taxes. And suddenly the Democrats would be the ones to be able to do that.
My thought is that, something needs to change to, force a reallocation of all the money that's being spent. There's enough money to fund all these different services without property taxes. It would just have to be reallocated from, other places where it's being, spent and it's being wasted. We see all these different millages being passed at the local levels, and, they're passed, supposedly to fix the roads or fire or police or for the kids for education. And then that money's squandered. And then, they come back for another millage over and over again. And the public doesn't understand, what a millage is. It doesn't sound, onerous as a massive tax hike, over the course of decades. So I think, it can be seen as stopping local control. But if the local government is coming to tax you and drive you out of your home, then yes, they should be stopped.
And I mean, I hate to say this too, because I've already gotten lambasted on Rescue before for saying this, but you have a lot of people that vote that don't own property that jack up my property taxes because of stuff that they vote for. And I don't think that's correct either. So the whole system's flawed. And then not only that is you can have your property taken away if you don't have these taxes paid. Tax forfeitures, tax foreclosures. And that's not okay. So there's a lot of stuff out there that needs to be fixed. And well, I'll go into it later, but go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
I was gonna read. First off, Jay says, I agree with the goal, but some of the arguments and attitudes are wrong and offensive. For example, why should I pay for a public library I never used? Yeah, actually, I saw Carla, who is the woman behind this. I think she's on here someplace. Maybe under About Us. Anyway, I saw her the other day. Carla Wagner, and she made a comment like that, saying, "Why should I pay for the libraries that I don't use?" Which is an argument I have no problem with personally.
That's more of a preach to the choir type argument.
Yeah. And I mean, I think fundamentally the issue is with the people of Michigan. And look, like I said, I know where I stand on taxes, but the huge majority of people are not where I am. They think, well, we need to pay for things, don't we? And this happened not all that long ago. Um, there was a proposal in Lansing. Well, there was a budget bill in Lansing, and this was when I think we actually had a split house, Democrat and Republican house, and we had a Republican governor. And they had this budget bill, and Debbie Stabenow was a state senator at the time, and they let this amendment ride to end property taxes in Michigan that the governor wanted. And the reason he wanted it was because then the people immediately said, well, now we have to fund schools somehow. And now Engler was the one that got to rewrite the tax code. That's what became Proposal A, was what the Republicans came up with and put on the ballot. And you have to imagine if the voters would vote to remove, and here's the actual text of the proposal right here on the screen. If the voters would actually vote to approve this, they're going to have to come up with some other way to tax people again. Not that I think they should, but that's what they will do. But I think more fundamentally, though, that goes to the other issue, which is that voters wouldn't approve this if it was put on the ballot. I mean, voters don't naturally approve ballot initiatives. Their inclination is to vote no if they think something is too confusing, too complicated.
Not in 22, they
They
didn't.
vote yes on things is when polls show that they're 60% are voting yes before they even start.
Then let it go to, okay, I want to highlight Randy Guppy's comments because this is why I'm talking about this today. And I love you, Randy. It was from a comment I saw from Randy that brought this to the forefront of my mind today. We're being mean. Calling it Ask My Tax and saying it's fraud, that's mean. And normally I'm not that person that kind of goes on the defense and speaks about this, especially because I've been lambasted by so many people over the years. And that's just mean. We're beating up on our own people. Carla's a great lady. She works really hard. This has been her life. This has been her life for a year and a half. And she might be misguided in some aspects of this, but it's mean in these chats that we're going into to lambaste these people. And I think it's become a Karamo versus Hoekstra thing almost for this. And we're putting personalities above policies and people, and that's not okay. So sorry to be on my soapbox, but that's what really drove me today, because I'm not a Karamo person. Karamo's personally attacked me, but it's not okay to keep having this divisiveness that's just insane and hurting people in chats and we have an election cycle and that's not okay.
Yeah, it does seem like kind of like a proxy war, from the Karamo battles that have been had and have been so messy. And as for what Randy said, I just don't believe that fire and police and all these essential services need property taxes at a local level to fund them. I think that's just been a lie that they've sold us so that they can continue passing these millages over and over again. So I don't believe that, by getting rid of property taxes, we wouldn't be able to fund these things. They would just have to allocate the resources that they have better without, going back to the taxpayers and raising their property taxes. So I think that's just more of what the liberals always say as to why they need these taxes. And, I think one thing that Ask My Tax, if they're going to get the idea out to the broader public, is, have different ideas on how these services can be funded. Release a plan, or release a detailed white paper that explains how these things will be funded once property taxes are gone. And they don't have that right now. I know that, it's a volunteer-led, grassroots-driven thing. So, getting that sort of data and those sort of studies, costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time and a lot of research. But, that's the sort of thing that, to have a major campaign against property taxes and to change the attitudes of the public, you need to have that groundwork Otherwise, you're just going to get people who already don't like property taxes. And, sad to say, that's still a pretty small minority of people, because, renters who, they don't necessarily understand that, the higher property taxes they're going to feel the burden of that and higher rents. They just think, oh, I don't own property, tax them. We get fire, we get essential services out of that. And we have to fight back and change attitudes and dispel a lot of these myths. And that takes time, more than just one election cycle. That's going to take many years to change people's perception on property taxes, to actually eliminate them in the state, in my opinion. But although I do think Axe My Tax is a laudable effort in what they're doing.
It's
Well-
not. It's not. Go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say, I don't know if I would use the word laudable. I think I might stop short of that, because I think the issue is, one individual is very upset about her tax burden, and goes around and says we should remove property taxes. Okay, well, that's great, but you don't have the resources to put it on the ballot. You don't have the ability to make sure that it passes if it gets to the ballot, and then there's no plan for how you would do substitute this revenue stream. Okay, so you have basically a good person, an honest citizen, wants to change something, doesn't understand the political realities of the world. Well, so what? So the petition's going to fall short on signatures. That'll be the end of it. And then 2 years later, some other person comes in with another great idea and starts saying we should all focus our efforts on doing this. And the thing, to get to, your point, Shane, about how much money it takes money just to put it on the ballot, like to gather the signatures in time. People think that these citizen initiatives are like this easier way of doing things. And it's like, actually, this is a lot harder than what you think you're going to have to actually do, because again, you need a ton of money to get the signatures in time. You need a ton of money to compete with the opposing effort, which there will be, guys, if you were to get this on the ballot, to overcome the things that the other side would say to voters about how this is a terrible radical thing, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the end of the day, most voters are going to go, I want to pay taxes to have the government give me things. And then you're back to the original problem, which is you got to actually educate the voters to win the elections, to elect the conservatives in the first place, which is the thing you're trying to avoid having to do.
Vicious circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
We're always chasing our tail.
Axe My Tax would be better as kind of like a local anti-property tax watchdog that works to defeat these millages and educate the public about why they're not necessary and what it will really cost. And I think that would be a good way to build support at the local level, because you'll find that when I was the lead on trying to stop the transit tax in Oakland County, what I found was that a lot of the more establishment type Republicans were very interested in that issue. They had been involved in government for many years. They saw how all these special interests keep coming back to the well, demanding more and more money, taxing people more and more, and treating the public like they're a piggy bank for all these different government agencies. And they were very much against it. So you have a local organization that works to fight, specifically to fight these taxes, bring people, all these different conservative people together, have a powerful coalition that way, and then work to educate, fundraise through those people, then work to educate and change the minds of the people. And then once you start beating these millages, you start having successes, then you can go to bigger donors. Then you can build the capital, and you've changed the hearts and the minds of the people. Then maybe you can have some sort of ballot initiative, statewide campaign at some point that would be viable. But I think sometimes people in the grassroots want to put the cart before the horse. They don't want to do the tedious, long organizing at the local level. They kind of just want to, we're going to put this idea out there. This idea is so great, and we're going to get it with the grassroots enthusiasm. But, that's usually, that's very rare that something like that works. You have to build the foundation before you can have massive change.
Yep.
Where'd you get that idea, Shane?
Yeah, Jason says, about a cap on property tax, and the government learns to live within its means.
Let's get Jason.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that's kind of like what the Headley Amendment is, kind of, sort of. But also, I mean, the reason why you wouldn't be able to get a tax cap in the Constitution is because the whole idea of a constitutional amendment is that it has to be harder to do than just passing a regular law. If you can pass a regular law to lower your taxes, you can just go to that. So there's no way you're going to get to the harder step of amending the state constitution. I mean, the only time this works well is for left-wing groups doing left-wing things because the statist money can come their direction. And, you can get language that's completely misleading about what abortion does and put that on the ballot. And, or with voting rights, call something voting rights. And actually that reminds me, I wanted to also highlight this comment. Where'd it go? Yeah, Ron Picard says the sub-goal of any ballot proposal should be to get out the conservative vote. Yeah. Will these proposals get out the conservative vote? I don't think they're going to make much of a difference on turnout. Not the way weed will get the Democrats to turn out.
I think a tax-based, well thought out plan with a plan might.
I don't know. I don't see Republicans coming out to vote who otherwise would fail to vote. I was out knocking on doors today and we had some good interactions, but the people who are like, who, there's a lot of voters out there that are, the low turnout voters are by definition the ones that care the least, and they're the hardest ones to get out. I don't know if they would get out just for
we don't want to talk about voter turnout. We saw what happened on Tuesday.
Why don't we talk about that, actually, since you mentioned it? Because yeah,
gosh, it feels like forever ago, and it was just last Tuesday.
Yeah,
that's insane. It was a long week.
A lot of people are very upset about the low Republican. There's low turnout from both parties in that race, but the reality is that's what special elections always are. And the people who don't turn out because they don't care are the people least likely to turn out just because you tried to make them care. And
right,
Allegan says off-cycle elections never get turnout. Yeah, I mean, I know that some people, including Patty, worked really hard on that election. And unfortunately, some folks in Lansing did not pony up as much as maybe they could have. But it was, the fact is,
I'll disagree with that.
Why is that?
We handle, I don't know what we expected from Lansing, but Lansing was, everyone was too busy focusing on Christina that we didn't focus on this election. Truth.
I disagree with that statement too, because I feel like Hoekstra came down a lot and did some stuff in this area because he did fundraisers. He was here, and then I feel like a lot of the state reps, like Angela Regas and Jamie Thompson, got together for a fundraiser. There was some staff door knocking. Not consistently, but there was, Runstead and a lot of those people.
A lot of members in Lansing helped out. But if this was a race that they were serious about winning, the HRC would have spent at least $1 million.
Yeah, no, the money wasn't spent.
I don't know about that.
When we say Lansing, we talk about the HRCC. They've been raising a lot of money, many hundreds of thousands of dollars, led by Biden voting governor, former governor Rick Snyder, and billionaire, oligarch, globalist, Whitmer supporter Bill Parfett. They've raised hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and as far as I can tell, none of that money, or very little of that money, was spent in these special elections. That they figured they would just lose because that money is slated to protect, moderates and liberal Republicans, the type of people who, Snyder and Parfett love, rather than actually stopping the Democrats, which they're not so concerned about.
Yeah.
So that's the real tragedy here. Hoekstra did some fundraisers. There, a bunch of different reps came and did what they could. A lot of door knocking. People were out, so it was great to see. Yeah. Great to see that.
Yeah, we did. It didn't translate to votes.
Yeah, it was a turnout election, and that's where you need to have a bunch of field staff getting out votes in every single precinct and squeezing that juice. And that's something where, and to be fair, this was a D plus 25 seat. And it's not like HRCC wouldn't have looked at that and gone, well, we're probably not going to win this. And that's not an
Well,
unreasonable
yeah, but
They
opinion.
threw in the towel.
They should have had better candidate recruitment too. I was saying this all along. We knew this was going to happen, and there was no candidate recruitment for months going on, to the point where people are like, "Well, Amber, why don't you recruit?" I go, "Because none of this is in Oakland County."
Yeah,
and I
you
mean, I
can't
don't
come
know.
below 8 Mile. We've established that.
Patty will beat me up. Like, I can't do it.
And
So,
and you got to remember, the Democrats did put more resources into this. Every, in Westland, every voter or the targeted voters all got a glossy mailer saying how evil Josh Powell is because of his abortion views or whatever, or because he said something on social media 20 years ago, bullshit like that. That got out. When I was calling people for Josh, people were getting that messaging. Did they receive any messaging from Republicans? No. Maybe from the people who hit the doors. Maybe one or two flyers.
Mailers. My understanding, there were 2 mailers, and we door knocked every door twice. In addition, they had all these phone banks where I think they called all these people twice. There were enough Republican votes in District 25 that if these people would have just voted, we would have won. And they just didn't vote. So all that messaging coming from the left shouldn't have affected the people that we targeted, because they would have known
Republicans receive that messaging too, and they believe it. They see, he's going to take away our Social Security. Oh, I don't want to support him. That's the way even Republicans think. So that's the sad truth. We needed, 7, 8 mailers deluging people with our messaging to have a chance at success here.
Well,
HRCC could have done that. They did not, because they didn't give a damn about really stopping Whitmer. They want to keep their money. They want to keep their all the money they've raised and make sure that money keeps moderate and liberal Republicans in office in November, so that they can keep their stranglehold on power, rather than actually stopping something, or maybe even helping conservatives along. They don't want to do that. They want to keep the moderates and liberals in power in the Republican Party,
I guess. But anyway, the guy that won Hertzberg, he's being primaried. The lady who lost to him, Mindy, whatever, the one that Whitmer endorsed, is running against him.
Interesting.
She is, and she'll probably win. Who knows?
Who knows? But anyway, it was disappointing. But where's Ron we're on Picard. We need permanent AV push and AV chase. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't involved on that part of it. I don't know.
EVs killed Westland.
Well, and what we really need to stop, everyone keeps saying, well, we won on election day. It doesn't matter. That's like saying, well, we were winning at halftime of the game.
We were down 40 points going into the fourth quarter, but we won the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, stop. And that's just shameful. And then people think, okay, their vote doesn't matter, right? So that doesn't help. All this stuff that's been going on with, people trying to convince, that everyone's election or their votes getting stolen. That doesn't help. So AV, because it doesn't, it's a vote.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reality, folks. If you're not embracing AV voting, you're not helping. Like, speaking of Christina Caramos people, Jay says that's the what we need to do. First door knock, get out the request.
Her name is Mindy, Mindie something. Mindy.
So I guess he's being primaried by 2 people, but
maybe he is. Yeah.
Dan Lawless had a comment up there that says, how can we candidate recruit when it was such a fast turnaround with them? No, we knew that the mayors were running for months. For months, we knew that. They campaigned. We knew there would be an open seat, and there was still no candidate recruitment. I knew for months. And the people that are in Macomb and that do Macomb things, that they're like, oh, we handle our own things, they didn't handle it. Same thing with the Wayne people. I love my Wayne people, though. And I love my Macomb people. But still, there was no candidate recruitment going on. And HRCC, didn't either. So we got stuck with the candidates we got stuck with, which weren't horrible.
Josh is
but they weren't phenomenal. So It's just
Yeah,
where
well,
we were at.
thanks to Ron and Josh for stepping up, because
Absolutely.
you
But
know
it
a
was
lot,
almost
of
like
people
we
don't
had
a lot of people don't want to step up, and we can blame whoever for poor candidate recruitment, but a lot of it comes down to people not wanting to stick their necks out there and run in this climate.
Yeah,
And a lot
no,
of
I just, yeah,
conservatives are cowards.
it's commendable. I'm thankful for them for running for sure. And Josh
And
is running again, and I think Ron is too. And I think Ron's seat is one of the ones that that area has been redrawn due to the,
Yeah.
so
and highlight Paula's comment. No, I mean, yeah, Paula, I totally understand. That was what you've done is amazing in Wayne. But this was more of a dig at Lansing and HRCC and those people as well. That's their job is to recruit. And state
Yeah.
party as well. And we didn't have a state party. So there's a lot there.
Yep.
But what we need to be focusing on is the first thing is AVs. We just have to make sure that every weak Republican, soft Republican is just hit constantly with you need to sign up for AV, because we just have to keep hounding these people to vote and make sure that they vote early or vote AV. Because if we wait for these, or if we hope that some of these, low propensity type people show up on election day, a lot of them aren't going to. They're going to forget, or be like something might come up. Or what if, there's weird abnormalities on election day, and you have to wait 3 hours and you say, screw this instead. You have to be dedicated to vote if you're going to be on election day potentially. So vote early. It's incredibly easy. Just stress the easiness of it, and then we'll be able to get hundreds of thousands of more votes.
Yeah, but Mike Lindell told everybody to vote on election day, so
Yep.
Yeah, so it's not going to be easy.
Turner says next election, Ron Singer, I guess, would be in a D+1 instead of D+. Yeah, I mean, every bit helps. And I know in Westland, you guys got a much better result than we got in 2022. So,
we outperformed by 5 points. I mean,
yeah,
so it did move the needle, but
yeah, no, that's substantial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and knocking on doors and identifying voters is important too.
Yeah,
every time we knock on a door and someone says, "I'm a Republican,"
and
I'm like,
really,
yeah,
and everything also comes down to data, you guys. It's as good as your data is, right?
But we have the data, so we should know theoretically right now who's going to vote absentee ballot come November, or at least who's going to get an absentee ballot.
Yeah, we have all that.
We know that already.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be waiting until, the end of May or beginning of June when we know absentee ballots hit the mailbox, and I'm talking about the primary now, but we should know who's getting a ballot, and we should already be targeting them with digital, with text messaging, with phone calls constantly. And I don't think we are, but we could be.
I mean, we know what we need to do.
We know what we need to do, and we need the people.
Too busy
And we can dovetail that into some precinct delegate talk if you want, Adam. About
sure. Although we never actually did get back to talking about those other ballot proposals.
Well, we can do both.
Choice and things like that. We can come back to that later.
Anyway, but Tuesday is
I said my piece.
Tuesday,
Tuesday is the deadline for candidates. PD's got a little bit more time yet, right?
Yeah,
Till May 7th.
Tuesday, township boards, right? State house. What else? County commission? I don't know.
County commission.
There's various local seats. We saw somebody in my county who has absolutely zero experience whatsoever filed to be the Republican candidate for Water Resources Commissioner, who doesn't have the foggiest idea what water resources are. But she wants to be the nominee so she can be on the Republican Party Executive Committee for 4 years. That's the only reason why she's filed. So, yeah. So, folks, keep that in mind, because the Cromwell cult knows this, by the way. That's how they're going to get themselves onto some statutory seats you might not have known you even had in some of your counties, guys.
We don't have statutory. Wayne 6 does not have. We don't have statutory.
Well, most counties do.
Most, yeah.
And,
we're like special, right, Paula?
We're special.
So make sure you guys file to run for these seats, especially if you don't want to have the cult of Christina running your county executive committee for the next 4 years. Get every seat you can.
Okay, highlight Heather's
Why would it be 4
comment. That'll
years,
be a good way
Adam?
to go back to that.
Why would it be
Uh-huh.
4 years, Adam?
Because the county commissioners serve 4-year terms starting next year.
Okay,
They do in yours too. They do in Oakland as
So
well.
if they file to run for county commission, or let's just say, or whatever, even state house, right? And they live in
Yep.
Washington, for example. So then if they win the primary, they are statutory? Is that
Yep.
how that works? And they're
Yep.
statutory for as long as the term
The term
what
of the
they ran
office.
for?
Yeah. So state house term would be 2 years. The state or county commission term would be 4 starting next year.
Wowza. Okay, well, that's interesting.
Yep.
Wowza.
Wowza. Okay.
So, yeah. So make sure you guys have candidates filed for those county seats. Anyway, but yeah, precinct delegates have until May 7th to file.
Yeah. And they can do it afterwards too. They just won't
Yeah,
be
write-in. The write-ins won't be for our
Write-in.
candidate. Yep. Anyway, the other ballot proposal we have going on is the Citizens for Local Choice, which some of you have probably heard about already. It's to overturn the law the Democrats passed this previous year, overruling local control on building wind and solar, basically, all over the state. So a few things that differentiate this from the Axe My Tax proposal. First is this website looks
This one
fancier
has-
because
Who has money?
they have
start.
money. Coming from the Farm Bureau, I believe, is the source of that, and maybe some other sources as well. Probably some municipalities, because everybody where they have these things hates them. Like I remember in Tuscola County, which is covered in wind farms, that everybody there hates them. But they have says Amber Harris for Oakland County Water Commissioner. There you go.
Thanks, Dan.
But yeah, this is a proposal that probably they've done testing, and when they look at the and I don't know if we have the ballot language on here. Let's see if it's under resources. Maybe it is. Maybe not. I'm trying to find the 100-word summary to see what it says. It doesn't look like they do. But you can see basically what their message is. And I have to assume they tested this, making phone calls, and they said, would you vote yes for this? And 60% people say yes. Because you wouldn't want to spend millions and millions of dollars getting all those signatures if you weren't sure it was going to pass if it went to the ballot.
From what I can tell, this is a very sound proposal. It's something that, I think, all Republicans would obviously support it. Moderates, independents, even some Democrats. So I think this is, something there's, a no loss proposition here. And it's something that, there's obviously money behind it. It's a serious proposal. So,
yeah, look at this. They got a whole Google Drive. Informative one-pager. Oh, it's the same thing we just looked at. But yeah, well-organized effort, and probably paid for by the interest that wanted to get it passed. So good for them. That's
not every proposal with money behind it is evil. Sometimes the whatever lobbying groups or trade groups or corporations, if they want to support something like this, go right ahead, and something that everyone should be able to get behind. And I haven't heard any real squabbling in the grassroots about this, so that shows you right there that it's a pretty good proposal, because if there was any room for squabbling or infighting, it would be happening.
Yeah. Well, it's because, the reason why the Democrats did this is because their Green New Deal agenda trumps everything else. So all of a sudden, all the stuff they say they care about, like local control, goes out the window. Yeah, Allegan News sums it up. They don't care about rural folks at all.
Worse
wanna
than
feel good.
not caring. They want you off your farm. They want you in a 15-minute city. They want you to be able to be controlled. They don't want
wanna
you to have
control your
private
farm.
property. Yeah, they want
Right.
to seize. They want to collectivize your farm and
Yeah.
throw you in, some sort of urban hellscape.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
True.
Not laughing
maybe
at the
we can
idea,
use-
but laughing at the words hellscape.
maybe we
I
can use
feel like
the-
I'm in an urban hellscape right now, as a matter of fact. I'm looking actively at farms across the state.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can pass some kind of amendment to ship all the rusted out old windmill blades that they can't recycle or put anywhere and just make them public art in cities or something. They can have a
You see Emma Birch's comment?
which one? Saw a comment from Tammy Clark. She's not supporting local control because the deadline is already passed for signatures. Is that not true?
No, Heather just said it was May 7th. Or 27th. May 27th.
Well,
Right,
if I
Heather?
recall correctly, the citizen initiated proposals have a rolling 6-month deadline. And you have to at some point throw out or recollect the signatures after that 6-month window has begun.
So is this a legislative initiative proposal? I'm reading the deadline list on the Secretary of State. It says May 29th, deadline for petitions to place a legislative initiative proposal on the November general election ballot.
Yeah, that's because if it doesn't, they'll miss the it's the deadline because we're now in 2024. And there's no more time left because otherwise it'd go to
And then there's a
next
different
cycle, and therefore
deadline.
all the signatures they've gotten would be invalid because at that point they'd have the wrong year on them that they had signed. Yeah, and she said that's one of the ballot. Yeah, because it was a funded proposal, so we'll be going to the ballot. So good, they're going to get it done. Excellent.
It's awesome, Heather. Good.
No, so it hasn't passed. And then the constitutional amendments have an even later deadline. So this is the first deadline. Okay.
Yeah, I would look. I'm not going to referee between people in the comments section. I can tell you the people that are running this operation are professionals and I would assume have gotten their homework in on time, but we'll see. Then again, some of the people collecting signatures on other efforts in the past have been professionals, and that hasn't helped them. So we'll know. Dwayne, I see your comments about Kurt Heisey.
We've been talking about it, Dwayne. I'm so sorry what you're going through.
Yeah, Kurt Heisey. See my previous video. Kurt Heisey is a lying bag of trash.
Oh boy.
Well, Dwayne, that's what you get for conferring with such evil people at the Maddox party. So
the alt-right libertarian Shane Trejo. Just Google him, people.
just Google that awful person.
Dwayne, you should just knock on doors and hand out a flyer saying Kurt Heisey's lying about me. And that's why I'm knocking on doors, because he's a scumbag. He lies about it. That really is that's a terrible thing for any elected official to badmouth any constituent is normally
that's what I was thinking too.
No.
And
I'd make an issue out of that.
Oh yeah, when you can't point to your record of success, you have to, I guess, get into these bizarre personality conflicts on social media. So it just shows how desperate he is. And I remember when he was a lawmaker, he had a very poor record, supported corporate welfare and a lot of the liberal stuff that was passed under Rick Snyder. So he was a bad person in the legislature, and now he's a bad supervisor and attacking constituents and just shining example of everything that's wrong with politics.
Yeah, for those who don't know what we're talking about, Kurt Heisey is the Plymouth Township supervisor, which is where Patty here lives, and running for re-election, and has been waging very, very nasty personal attacks against his opponent and his opponent's supporters. And that's what this
openly
is
on Facebook. That's the
very,
thing.
very publicly, very unbecoming conduct for a public official, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, recycling a lot of the far left MSNBC Democrat talking points about Republican Trump supporters being insurrectionists, being white nationalists. Just basically, you would think this guy was a Democrat if you saw this. I mean, he is, technically he's a Republican, but he's one of those guys who the essence of him is I don't even want to say liberal, far left Democrat.
And
Yeah.
I personally don't know him. I just know that he is attacking some of my friends. So it's just not okay.
No way,
Oh, hi,
Dan.
Judy.
I
Yeah, I've
agree
said
with
my-
that statement. Patty got so up in arms about the trees. Just think about what good you could do, Patty, as supervisor of Plymouth.
I would spend less time than we do now. Yeah, like whoever runs, if anyone wants to run for township trustee, yeah, it'll be less time to just be on the board than it is to fight everything that board tries to
Are you
do.
gonna try for it?
No, I'm not,
Why?
because I don't want to.
I'm sure somebody could twist your arm.
No,
That'd be perfect.
no.
All right. Do you have anything more to talk about tonight? I think I've done enough ranting and raving about Mike Johnson for this week.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
I want Patty to run too, Dwayne. Let's try to coerce her in the next day and a
well,
half.
there already is a gentleman running for this office. Let's support him.
No, a trustee.
Oh, for trustee.
Mm-hmm. How many trustees are you off in Plymouth?
We have 7. Well, there's 4 trustees and then a supervisor, a clerk, and a treasurer. Or
And
3
what's the
paid,
split
3
of Republican
paid.
Democrat?
And those are also trustees.
We're all
Yeah.
Republicans.
Are they really?
No.
Yeah.
yeah. They're all rhinos. Well, if they're all rhinos. I know Heiji's is rhino. All right, guys.
Well, I thought
Was that
this
gonna
was
do it?
good. I said my piece. I really just want, and I don't say get along. The slandering is just horrible. These Telegram chats and everything. I feel like we're really being anti-productive right now by not.
Okay, but that's been going on for a year and a half. It's something new.
No, it has, but now the Hoekstra people took over, and I feel like with Axman tax and some other things, they're almost being sore winners and still beating up on the Karamo people and choosing Axman tax to do it. And then I'm not a Karamo person, and I just want to see people come together to actually work for this election cycle, or we're going to have a really hard time.
And we've talked about,
for me, the issue
how
is-
we talked about like
Go
how
ahead,
in the
Ken.
first district where, Melanie Greenfield was castigated and they did kind of a struggle session type thing, impugning her and then wouldn't allow her to respond. We see things that are really heinous like that, but then, we don't want to do the same things to that side that they're doing to us and our friends. So, this level of vindictiveness that you do see coming from both sides, wanting retribution rather than just letting these sleeping dogs lie at least until after November, focusing on the elections, and then we'll have the fights when they should be had. The sore winners comment. We need to be magnanimous and we need to unify as much as humanly possible heading into November, or this infighting will doom us and make it even more difficult for us to win. It's already going to be hard enough with whatever they plan on doing, whatever tricks they have up their sleeve. They're going to have something. They remember what they did in 2020. They had COVID came out of the blue, the mail-in ballots, the George Floyd Summer of Love, the riots. There's going to be something, and we don't need to have. We don't need to be going out being vindictive to people, because they're Karamo supporters or because they're not
Right.
anti-Karamo enough or whatever. We have to put all that aside, head into November, and then after November we can pick up where we left off.
Completely agree. Thank you, Shane.
Yeah,
Dan
I
Lawler
think
said back.
the issue is these ballot proposals are just they suck people's time and energy away. Because
And that's fine. Let them suck the people that's spending time on them's energy away. But the other people that are anti it don't need to bash on the people that are spending their time in something that they believe in.
yeah,
It's demoralizing, and you're demoralizing these people. And we need to not run activists out of the party necessarily.
yeah. By the way, Lynn Shan says Cass County commissioners all run as Republicans, but only 2 vote like Republicans. You got one more day to find primary challengers, Lynn. At least file somebody to run against them.
Dan Lawless said, "Back to business. Are you going? What's that all about?"
There's a state committee meeting apparently.
Oh,
I'm not
back to
going.
business. I get it. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
see. And then a shameless plug for Oakland County Republican Party. They have a Taste Around the World event going on Friday, this coming Friday. It's in Lake Orion. You do a strolling dinner, and then you have different entertainments, and it's from all around the world. And we just kind of embrace our melting pot. It was a lot of fun last year, probably one of the funnest events we threw. So it's going to be a good time. It's very inexpensive to get in. Lake Orion Eagle Creek Academy. Visit the website. I think Elgin also has the Reagan Day dinner on that Friday, so I might actually be there instead. But so those are two events I know coming up. Anybody else have anything? Delegates for Trump, Shane?
Yeah, we have a bunch of delegates for Trump events. We have 2 events, one tomorrow, one in New Hudson and one in Plainwell. So one on the east side, one on the west side. We have our Northern Michigan tour coming up, all from Wednesday all the way through Saturday. So we have events coming up in Gaylord, in St. Ignace, in Traverse City, in Sault Ste. Marie, Marquette, and elsewhere. So go on delegates, the number 4trump.com, click on the events tab, find out where the event is near you, and bring a friend. Get some friends involved. We want to grow the team. We want to avoid all this infighting and all this toxicity. Focus on winning in November, and we'll overcome the obstacles and be able to turn the state and the country around. It's not over yet. Let's put the circular firing squad away until after November. Then we can go back to hating each other. But for right now, let's focus on winning in November.
Right on Rumble, Satcom 9475 says, "What happened to election day voting?" Well, you can still vote on election day. The thing is, a lot of people fail to. And if you can get them to vote earlier, then that is less of a risk that our people don't turn out. And historically, the side that gets more absentee votes out wins because they get more people out, period. So we really have to try to get as many people out voting early as possible.
Yeah.
The best way is voting in person at the clerk's office.
Yeah. So for Paula's, could you bring Paula's back up? Take that one down.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Paula's event on Thursday. We were going to have an event on Thursday as well, but I'm not going to now because of this one for delegate recruitment. So that's Morgan Ray is recruiting election inspectors.
Cool.
So I always encourage everyone, though I know that they try to put you or whatever, but your local municipalities need election inspectors too. Not everybody needs to go to Detroit. So just FYI. So
we should have everyone covering everything. We shouldn't have this problem where we're begging for Republicans to monitor elections. You'd think after 2020 that would not be an issue anymore.
I think we're doing okay. I mean, I think we did okay at the presidential primary. But just everybody, I don't know. I worked down at Kobo once. I'm like, all right, whatever. I mean, I didn't see anything. So, but it's just, it's good to.
You didn't see anything when you were at Kobo?
No.
When did you do that?
I worked the August primary of 22 at Kobo.
Okay.
Yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's Paula's event on Thursday at Joy Manor. Wayne 6 people. If you want to go there, you can get your affidavits done there if you haven't already. We are going to have at least one more.
What time is that on Thursday?
Paula, if you're still on, can you put the time in the chat? I know she sent me an email about it, but cool. Anyway, so we were going to do another one on Thursday, but I'm not going to now because of that. And then we'll have one, maybe 2 more and take the stuff downtown. You guys know this week, if you're in Wayne County, the election office is moved because of the draft. So they have a temporary election office right now because of the NFL draft.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that's it.
All righty.
Tuesday, run for something.
Yep. File. File, guys. Go to your clerk's office. Don't do the signatures. Just pay the fee.
$100. Yep.
File and run. All right, guys. I think it's
Okay.
going to do it for us for tonight. I'm sure there'll be more during the week. Until next time. Thanks for all you guys do for Liberty. Peace.